Hi, welcome to What? It's Healthy, the show where we make delicious, creative dishes with a surprising veggie twist. Now, normally my daughters are with me, but today I'm flying solo. You might notice I'm also not in my normal kitchen, and that's because today I am at St. James Episcopal Church in Collegeville. They're letting me use their kitchen because they're helping me out. This year, I get to coordinate the Christmas Eve potluck. And since by the time Christmas Eve arrives, little baby girl over here is only going to be a few days old, they're doing me a favor and letting me make my dishes early so that I can keep them in the church freezer and just heat them up on the day of. So what we're making today is butternut squash, macaroni, and cheese. It is warm, it is creamy, it is cheesy, it is ooey-gooey, and so good, but surprisingly healthy, and honestly, I think easier to make than the original. So let's get started. All right, so this is a butternut squash. It is the star of this dish. It is a winter squash, which means it's gonna be very sweet and starchy, and when we blend it up, it's gonna be super, super creamy. This recipe actually was inspired by my friend Catherine. She made the best butternut squash soup for my baby shower, and it had this like toasty nuttiness. I thought she put cheese in it, and when I asked her for the recipe, she said there was no cheese. And I was like, well, if it's this cheesy and there's no cheese, imagine if you put cheese in it. And that's how the recipe was born. So what we're gonna do to get that toasty, nutty flavor is we're gonna roast it really well. So to break it down is pretty simple. We're just gonna separate the bulb end, the head end from the neck. So we're just gonna cut right down here. There you go. Look how pretty and orange that is. Can you already picture that being like a cheese sauce? It's gonna be so good. And then we're gonna cut these two pieces in half. I'm gonna tell you the truth, a cleaver would be the ideal tool for this, but I'm using what I got. And then this half is gonna cut a lot easier because this is the only part with seeds. Perfect. All right, now we're just gonna scoop these seeds out. Keep them though, they're like any other squash seeds. You can save them and toast them and have a quick, yummy, healthy little snack, just like pumpkin seeds. So that's why we are putting them into a container to take home as opposed to right in the trash or compost. It actually would go in the compost. My church has a community garden that is lovely. Hopefully you guys will get to see it in the summer. That's where Delilah has started her little farming aspirations. Okay, seeds are out. All we have left to do is dress this with just a little bit of olive oil and a sprinkling of salt. I'm gonna grab my basting brush. All right, and then we're just gonna coat all of the cut surfaces so they don't burn. Just real quick and easy. This is such an easy dish, guys. Maybe just a tiny bit more for this guy. Come on. There we go. There we go. A little salt. Season well, because it's all about layering seasoning. No matter what kind of dish you're making, you want to make sure every part of it is seasoned properly. You don't have to go too crazy because we are going to keep seasoning as we go. But that looks pretty good. And a little for good luck. All right, and now we're just going to put those on our baking tray. I am using disposable ones for easy cleanup. If you're using a regular cooking tray at home, make sure you foil line them. Like I said in the beginning, these have a lot of sugar, and as the liquid bleeds out, the sugar will bleed out and it'll make a big mess. So use a disposable one or foil line them. Here we go. And then those are just gonna roast in the oven at 400 degrees for about an hour. So it's been an hour. This should be hot and toasty. And it looks perfect. But you guys see what I was saying about all of that sugar buildup. That's why you want to use foil or a disposable pan. Now this is really, really hot and we are going to have to work with it with our hands. So we're going to give that a few minutes to cool. So while we do that, we're going to put a pot of water on for the pasta. And we're gonna start browning the butter for the cheese sauce. So we are going to brown our butter. We're gonna use 3 tablespoons to start. Later on, we'll give it a taste, and if it's not quite rich enough, we can always add more butter. You don't have to brown it. Every now and then I've had to add like an extra little tablespoon. Turn this up slightly. Not my stove. There we go. It's starting to melt. And we're just gonna swirl this around and until the butter solids start to toast. As you can see in there, you can see like the little white specks, or there's like the clear part, that's the fat, and then the little white speckly parts, that's the milk solids. And those will cook, and those will get a rich, nutty brown, and that gives it that toasty, nutty, warm flavor. It kind of makes you think of like pie crust. So that's gonna take a few minutes, and you do kind of have to sit on top of it because going from brown to burnt happens fairly quickly, and once it's burnt, there's no going back. So we'll see you in a few minutes once it's properly burnt. Okay, we have achieved brown butter. See how all of those bits are golden and kind of dark and a little bit toasty? That's exactly where we want it. And now we can go ahead and add our butternut squash. So I'm gonna take this off heat and I'm gonna grab that. So now we're gonna go ahead and scoop in all the flesh, and you can see that's so easy. It's super soft and it's very roasted and toasty. And yeah, we're just gonna get this all in real quick. So the squash is in now. We had to slide burners because we're gonna blend it up in just a second, and my cord couldn't reach. But first we have to add our liquid. We're gonna add about a cup of chicken broth. Mine is homemade, yours absolutely doesn't have to be. The store stuff is fine. I'm gonna add about a cup and about a cup of milk. I'm using whole milk because it's richer. I have used 1% because that was what was in the house, also fine. So those are gonna go in and we're gonna blend. All right, and now we're gonna taste. It hasn't been seasoned yet, so this definitely isn't the finished product. We also haven't added any cheese. We're just tasting to see for like the richness and that nuttiness to see if we need to add any more butter. And you know what? I think I'm gonna add 1 more tablespoon this time. The squash maybe had had a little bit of more water in it, so it didn't caramelize quite as much. Okay, that extra bit of butter is melted in, and now it tastes perfect, but under seasoned. So we're gonna add just a little bit of salt. Remember, go scant, because we're gonna add it each layer, and it's so much easier to add more than to take away. Plus, we're gonna have salt in the water for the noodles, and cheese is salty. So we're gonna add just a little bit right now. And we're gonna add our spices. So here's most of them. Really simple, classic macaroni spices. So pepper, good amount of pepper, some chili powder, just a little pinch of cayenne. You don't, unless you like a lot of heat, just enough to know it's there. This is mustard powder, and this is turmeric, which is actually used in a lot of mac and cheese. A lot of like the box brands now use that instead of artificial dyes for their coloring. So all that's gonna go in. I'm gonna give that a quick stir. And then there's one more spice that's going in that's really important. I'm putting it in separately because I wanted to talk to you guys about it. And that is nutmeg. So nutmeg is a little bit tricky. It is a classic spice in a lot of cream and cheese-based sauces, but it is also the quintessential spice for warm winter squashes like pumpkin and butternut. So if you don't put any in, it's gonna be flat, but if you use too much, you're gonna pull out the butternut squash flavor too much, and it's gonna make your macaroni and cheese taste off. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a 1/4 tablespoon, but really I want you to see this, and if you could zoom in, we're really doing like a scant 1/4 tablespoon. Again, you can add more, but if you add too much, there's nothing you can do. Okay, we're gonna mix that in, and then we're gonna give it another taste. So good. You would swear there's already cheese in there. Like I don't even need to add any, but I'm gonna. Okay, it's time for the cheese, and I'm really excited to show you this because something I forgot to mention earlier is that this recipe is for a double batch since I'm making it for my entire church. I love showing this part because I use less cheese for a double batch than most people use for a regular one. So we've got 3 cheeses. We've got Muenster, basic old shaky cheese, and cheddar. The Muenster is just kind of for like that melty ooey-gooeyness, sharpness from the Parmesan, and then cheddar provides that classic macaroni and cheese flavor. So we're gonna use 4 ounces of Muenster cheese, and then 2, 2, and 2. So a grand total of 6 for the cheddar cheese. And I have a really fun trick for that. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna cut a little score line in your cheese so you know where to stop when you grate it. And so for the 2, 2, and 2, we're gonna cut our 8-ounce block in half. Make sure you guys can see that. That's 4 ounces, so then we're gonna make score lines in each half. And now we know each time we get to the line, we've got 2 ounces. And now we grate. And do take the time to hand grate the cheese. Yes, it is tedious, but it melts so much better, and it tastes so much better, and it costs so much less because you're not paying somebody to shred it for you and then coat it in a bunch of anti-caking agents, which prevent it from melting right anyway. All right, cheese is shredded, time to melt it in. We are going to add it like little bunches at a time, so that's probably about half of the Muenster in first. And we're just gonna let it start to melt. It doesn't have to be fully melted before we add the next batch. Remember me saying that this was easier than regular mac and cheese? With the butternut squash puree, I have had no experience whatsoever with the cheese breaking and separating and getting oily and curly and nasty. It's just perfectly smooth every single time. So I don't think I'm ever gonna make regular macaroni and cheese again. Look, who doesn't love a cheese pull? That's what the Muenster's for. The Muenster gives you the really good cheese pulls. All right, and now we're gonna add the first of the 2 ounces of the cheddar. All right, and then last but not least, our shaky cheese. And we're gonna put about a half a cup in here. So that would be 4 ounces. Okay, it's actually starting to bubble, which means it is time to turn off the heat. And we're just gonna let all of this get incorporated, and then we're gonna add it to the noodles. The noodles are done. I know this pot is super full, but remember we did a double batch, so this is 2 pounds of elbow macaroni. We're just gonna let it drain. And honestly, we're not gonna take a whole lot of time with this. We're not gonna drain it super carefully because you saw how thick that sauce is. You kind of want a little bit of the water to cling to it and so that it blends in a little easier. We just need it to drain enough to not make a mess beyond all the macaroni I'm spilling everywhere. I said I was a good cook, not a neat one. All right, back on the burner. That goes off. I'm actually gonna slide this up. And now we're married. And you can just serve it like this. You can do pot style mac and cheese. This is gonna be good. But this is a church potluck. So this is gonna go in a pan with some bubbly cheese on top and some extra Parmesan for a little bit of brown, crispy crunchiness. And it's gonna be amazing. Ah, look, we're still getting the pulls. Look. All right, we're pretty much done. It's just time to turn this from a pot dish into an oven dish. So we're gonna very carefully scoop all of this in here. Oh, look, that's another advantage to doing it this way. If you miss some spots, you got a second chance of stirring it all in. So let's get all that pasta in. Sorry, it's heavy. Here we go. Give this another quick stir to get everything incorporated. There we go, and that looks great. Now all that's left to do is top it off with a little bit more cheese. And remember, so far, all we've added is 2 cups. So now we've got another 2 ounces per side. That's why we did 2, 2, and 2, because this is a double batch. A normal batch, you would just sprinkle on 2 more ounces of cheddar. You want to grate it fresh too, because as you can see, it's had some time to sit and it's starting to stick. That's why they put all those awful anti-caking agents in the pre-bagged, pre-shredded stuff. few more little bit in there. And a nice dusting of Parmesan cheese on the top. That's gonna help it get that really pretty, fresh baked golden look. And then normally you just put this in the oven until the cheese on top is happy. Till it's golden and brown and crispy and like exactly like you like it. But since this is for Christmas Eve, this is gonna get covered in foil and put in the basement. All right, time to taste test. Nick. Nick was my cameraman for today. He's one of my best friends. And he is Carissa's future godfather. All right, butternut squash, macaroni and cheese.
Squash. You know how much I love when you put vegetables.
I do know how much you love when I put vegetables in your stuff.
Well, I'm gonna see what it does though. Okay?
Yeah, go for it. Do you? Wow.
So where's the squash?
Right, exactly. It just tastes like macaroni and cheese.
There's no squash on it.
There's a whole butternut squash in this.
Seriously.
And only 3 cups of cheese
I mean,
in this whole thing.
I watched you do it, but
Right.
you don't taste the squash at all.
No.
This is
you
really good.
Just taste creamy
This is
goodness.
really good.
That's not going to sit in your stomach quite as heavy as regular macaroni and cheese. But it's still just as belly warming, isn't it?
I didn't think I'd enjoy it like I do, but this is really good.
Honey, you want to try some? My husband just got back from choir practice. I have a bowl sitting there for you. Time to stop my husband. How is it?
Really good.
All right, awesome, thank you. All right, well, since these guys are busy eating, I'm gonna try and do a selfie angle. I hope you liked watching this recipe. I hope I'm in lens because I have no idea. I am? Okay, awesome. If you like this and you want to see more, please like, hit subscribe, ring the bell for the notification button, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much and God bless.